The pursuit, week 16, couple weeks late, but this is the recap of the marathon. The 16-week period of our lives is officially complete, and now we have new things we'll be working towards, new things we will be pursuing. But yeah, we definitely just needed to close this chapter and just move on to what's next. So that's what this is all about, just recapping the marathon, recapping what happened, and kind of thoughts, perspectives, and everything we felt. So you may have seen just from my social media posts, but Patrick, I'll turn it over to you, and maybe we can hop right into it however you want. Maybe we could just go leading up to it, but
I mean,
good,
yeah,
good full story.
I think your social caption described it the best, PR or ER. So Tristan and I, getting ready for the race. He came a few days early, hydrated fully, did everything right, carved up. Fuel for the actual race was proper. We had salt
I'll
tablets,
say
gels.
the run we had on Friday, like all week, I had terrible runs. Patrick had terrible runs all week. Everything hurt. Paces were terrible. We go out Friday and we're sub 8 minute pace for 3 miles. Like felt great. It's
Cruising.
like butter, and confidence was like so high. And yeah, I mean then uh, marathon day came and temperature was a little hotter. But Patrick, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, temperature was definitely hotter. We kind of got screwed over. And Tristan, just because he's been in Pennsylvania and Virginia, he was obviously a big indicator of like, hey, this is going to this is going to have a big impact on us. And me being in Dallas, like it was nice weather prior to the marathon. Like in the mornings when I was running, it was like 40, 50, sometimes starting off in the 30s, little to no humidity. What was race day T? It was 60 degrees, 100% humidity.
Yeah, I mean, and 60 degrees is nice, and like that is good running weather. So really, this was the humidity, and
Yeah,
I mean, it was like walking out into a wet blanket.
yeah. I mean, it was super foggy too. Like we couldn't even see, we were downtown Dallas, we couldn't even see like buildings all around us. So that played a huge impact on the outcome of my marathon. But yeah, race day came. We both slept great. Once again, hydrated really well days prior, had everything prepped for the race. And then, it started, and Tristan and I went out guns blazing. I think our first like multiple miles was what, like 8:15, somewhere around there, 8.
Yeah, I think first four we were right around 8:20, somewhere like 8:10, somewhere 8:25. But it's like we went out with purpose. We went out to like the stretches of our training, and like holding that pace is what would have gotten us to the 3:45, which was like that stretch goal of like going a sub 8:30 per mile marathon. And so yeah, we ripped the first 4 miles, held on for like the first half. So I am
Yeah.
very proud of that first half. First half, I think we did a 152, which is like literally right on target for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too ahead right now, but it's just I definitely was uncomfortable fast into this run.
Yeah,
And
before we jump even past the half, talk about how just body wise, because it was rough.
yeah, like mentally, like the excitement had worn off for me after like the 5K. And like Patrick was kind of a step or two ahead of me for a lot of the first half of this marathon. And I truly think if he wasn't with me, I would have teetered off the pace just because mentally I was so checked out, so dejected with how physically I felt just because of the heat and the humidity and just like what I knew was ahead with how long we had to go. And yeah, I mean, it really was a constant battle mentally, like the whole time. And that's not to say physically we didn't perform for a lot of the race, but like, I don't know, mentally, I just wasn't expected to feel this terrible the whole time. Like,
Hmm.
I didn't have hardly any fun.
Yeah.
There's
No,
obviously
I
fun parts, but like, largely it was just a wow, every step gets you closer. Let's just get to the next mile and just it'll be over soon. But
yeah. I agree. I would say the first like 5 or 6 miles were fun just because we were cruising, energy was high. A lot of the people, I feel like I mean, actually, I don't even want to say that yet, but the first 5 or 6 miles was really fun. Um, Mentally, I want to say when I saw the 152 at the at the half race point, that's when mentally I was like, okay, this is gonna stay really painful. And when I got to that halfway point, calves started cramping, quads started cramping. I just kept going, just because Tristan and I were together. And yeah, same back to you. Like I don't doing this alone would not be the same. Um, Not even close. But yeah, just the pain mentally was way worse than cramping, 100%. Um, it was every single. I would see people go by me, and I was just like, they're doing it. They're feeling the same exact pain as you. So everyone's feeling this pain. At least that's what I was telling myself in my head. Everyone feels as bad as you do, so just keep going. Like everyone else is doing this, you can totally do this. This feels normal for everybody else. So just keep going, keep pushing through. I think around mile 18, I was kind of
Oh, let me
losing.
jump. Can I just jump
Yeah,
in? So like
yeah.
at the half marathon point, we did the 152. Like that's on pace for 3:45. I want to say it couldn't have been past mile 15. I want to say it was like right before we got to the big bridge around the lake. So mile 14, 15. I looked at Patrick and I'm like, hey, we just need to do a 2:08 second half to go sub four. So
Hmm.
that statement alone shows where I mentally and physically expected us to already be with halfway to go, because a 2:08 puts us at sub four and the goal is 3:45. So it's already shifting the goalpost so much to like our B goal, which was sub four. And it's just like, look, we can normally run a 2:08 half marathon like in our sleep. Like that's pretty close to 10-minute pace. Like you can just hold on. But yeah, I mean, it's just like at the halfway point, we are just cooked. And
Yeah,
I don't think it was like preparation. Like maybe we went out too hot, but I think it was really the humidity. And it's with that, we went out too hot for that day. But
I agree. Yeah, and another point is that was probably the only time Tristan and I spoke to each other. Was him saying that for like the entirety of the race, other than in the beginning when it was just like fun for the first hour. We were both in a lot of pain, and me personally, I don't want to share that pain, especially while we're mid race, just because I don't want us to start feeling negative and soft, frankly. Um, so we were both definitely keeping a lot in, a lot to ourselves. But when he said that, I knew, like, okay, he's in the same boat as me. Like, this is not feeling normal. This is not feeling good. But we just have to keep pushing through. Um, I'm ready to jump into the rest of it if you are.
yeah, well, I guess last
Yeah.
thing I'll say here, it's just like we may have been silent, and like this is where the thoughts you have matter so much. And it's like the music I had on for the first hour was like house music with like no words, so like my thoughts could really go, and they played a huge part in the negativity. Then I switched over to a podcast and I got a little better as far as like just focusing on the conversations, like being more positive. But like, yeah, when you think negative compared to when you think positive, it truly, truly makes such a big difference, especially in
Mhm.
something like this, where it's like the easy and logical thing to do is to slow down and or stop. Whereas the hard and difficult thing to do is to keep pushing pace for the next 3 hours, next 2 hours. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like I need to get better at just being positive. Like that's just a reality. But yeah, back to you.
Yeah, and there can definitely be some like more mental prep we could have done. I don't want to say we just like ignored that fact. We both speak positively and highly of ourselves and each other, but like, yeah, I completely agree. I was listening to kind of I think it was the same playlist. Um, but yeah, so after the half, after we finished half, we were around White Rock Lake, which is like an 8 mile stretch. So we should have finished what, like around 18 or 19 around the lake,
Yeah, because I want to say
somewhere
the
around there.
hills back up. Yeah, it was right around the hills, which I think was
Okay.
18, 19.
So yeah, we finished the lake. The lake was probably the hardest part of my race, almost the hardest part of my race, just because, like I said, calves were cramping, quads were cramping, and in my head. I was like, this has to be normal for everybody else because we prep 16 weeks, we're fully hydrated. This is how it's supposed to feel. Mentally, you're stronger than your physical. So just keep going. Your mental is stronger than your body. Keep going, keep going, keep going. We got to mile 18, which is basically finishing up White Rock. I saw Tristan. Tristan was pushing ahead of me a little. I was kind of trailing back. I remember seeing Tristan turn back. He was probably like 50 feet ahead of me, and I just gave him like the go ahead because I was definitely slowing down and I don't want to hold him up. I think I was around like 9:20, 9:30 pace at that time, and you were probably still pushing like 9. Um, but yeah, mile 18, Tristan went ahead, and then the next 4 miles were just like kind of darkness alone. Because after the lake, you got to go up and down through hills, back through the neighborhoods, and eventually head back downtown. But the story of it is, after I let Tristan kind of go, the next 4 miles were just really tough for me. I remember checking my watch, and it was like 195 to 198 heart rate. Was not feeling good. I mean, I wasn't feeling good the entire time, but I kind of felt like something was up. But once again, I just kept saying in my mental, like, your mind is stronger than your body. Like, you just have to keep pushing, keep going. Everybody else is doing this. You can just keep going. And the big thing for me was like I didn't want to stop because I know when I stopped, I would like play these little mind games like, okay, you stopped, that break helped, so do every like half mile, then walk some. Get to the next half mile and walk some. And I didn't want that. I really wanted to get 3:45. So that's what we've been training for 16 weeks. So I didn't want to stop. Mile 22, I believe it was just like it was kind of a graded uphill, and I remember seeing it and I was like, holy shit, like this might kill me. Getting up this hill. So I remember getting up the hill. I remember stopping up at the hill, putting my hands on my knees and not being able to stay balanced. And then the next thing I know, I'm in the hospital bed in the emergency room. Um, so I passed out at mile 22. I think I was just pushing myself too hard. Humidity was a huge factor, like we've been saying, but my mind definitely pushed my body to its last place. It could have kept going. So in that aspect, this may sound crazy. I'm pretty proud of that to like find my actual limit and what my
Yeah.
body was capable of doing. It sucks I didn't get to finish. I will be doing a marathon sometime this year, just to get it in and actually finish one. But my parents, I talked to them. They were saying I was crazy to want to do another one, but they didn't want me running one in the first place. But I'm proud of myself just because, like I said, I pushed myself physically. I pushed myself physically as far as I could, and mentally, I knew I had more in me.
Yeah. So that's the ER of the story. And yeah, so my point of view, like mile 18. So like I said, Patrick kind of paced me in the first half. And so in the second half, it's so miles 13 to 18, I was maybe a couple steps ahead of Patrick. And I mean, again, both hurting. It's not that Patrick was holding me up, but like I felt like duty of like, look, he paced me the first half where I definitely would have fallen off. Like mentally, it's like maybe he's just in this rut and I can help him along a little bit. Because like in my mind, I knew 3:45 was gone, but I knew if we held this pace for 4 hours would be like we would get that. And so then at mile 18, he waved me to go ahead, and I really didn't want to do that. But Patrick was pretty adamant with me like going ahead, but I kept looking back just like make sure I could see him. But then it got to a point where I just assumed he stopped or like had to really take a break for water. So then at that point it was okay. He would be pissed if I waited for him. Let me just keep going. And so yeah, 18 to 26, like those 8 miles, absolutely brutal by myself, and like honestly, like not really that scenic of a run back into Dallas for like I think miles like really 23 to 25 just kind of stunk. And yeah, I mean, I'm coasting at, I think most of those miles were between 9:30, 9:25, 9:40, which it's just so backwards what my previous experience running a marathon was. So in Philadelphia, I think 20 of my first 21 miles were all sub 9 minute pace. Now, that's not saying they were 8:30 pace, but they were between like 8:45, 8:50, whatever it was. Whereas this one, it's like you look at the first half, we're averaging 8:30. Second half, I'm averaging 9:30, and it's like that's a huge difference. But it literally just every step was just one step closer, and that's all I could think about was just like trying to get there and finish. And I do want to talk about fueling because I don't think we did that. It's not like we didn't come in like with a plan. We had a gel every 5K. We had salt tablets in between. We got water or Gatorade at every station, and every station was like roughly every 2 miles. So I would actually argue we were the most prepared from a
Hmm.
fueling perspective for any run we would have ever done. Because when we did 22, like we didn't have this much water, we didn't have this many gels, blah blah blah. So it's like that just shows how much the humidity and weather played an impact on Patrick to like push him to the ultimate point of like, yeah, I'm in the hospital now. And then for me, it's like just mentally, it sucked. Like I just wanted it to be done so badly, and my watch was a little off, which was annoying. But yeah, I mean, finishing, I finished in 3:58 or 3:57, so still a 5 or 6 minute PR for me, which I am happy about. I'm happy about going sub four. I'm happy in the fact that I do believe like that's not my true PR, just given the temperature, given the weather, given the course. And so I feel good in that. Like I feel good in finishing, but more to our story, I finished and I thought Patrick wasn't that far behind me. I thought I had seen Patrick maybe 300 feet behind me at like mile 25. So I turn around, I finish, and I'm like waiting for him. And I had my phone camera out, and I actually get asked to like move back because I was like in the way of people finishing. And I went and sat down. I got a Gatorade, and I was just hanging out for a little bit. And then I looked at my phone, and my dad and my girlfriend had both texted me, and they were like, "Hey, uh, Patrick's tracker hasn't moved in a while. He's at like mile 22." I was like, "Okay, I'll call him because like when you have headphones in and running, you're not going to get a text, but if you get a call, it will stop the music." So I called Patrick, and he's just like, "Hey, bro, I can't move," and I'm like, "Well, are you walking?" And Patrick was like, "I can't hear you," and then I just hear a lady's voice, so the doctor, and she was like, "Hey, are you the friend that ran with Patrick?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "Okay, well, he's in the ER. He passed out." And I was like, "What? Like, is he at a medical tent?" And she was like, "No, he's at the actual ER." So that was a big shock for me. And then it's just make sure that Patrick's parents had heard from him, which they had. And then I just had to get to the hospital and just make sure he was okay, which he was. But
Yeah, and real quick, shout out Tristan. Like he didn't have a ride or anything. He just asked a random dad and his son to take him to the hospital, and they did. He got there super quick. When I was there, I was a mess. Obviously, it was like full body cramps for like 4 hours when I was there, and they said I had rhabdo, which if what you guys don't know, it's like extreme muscle deterioration. Like usually it happens within like car accidents, like if your leg gets smashed by a door or something, it releases these CK chemicals, I guess, and it has a lot to do with your kidney. And regular CK levels when you don't have rhabdo is like 500. They said mine escalated up to 50,000. So if that shows anything, like my body was just completely in shock, out of whack. And I was
and
in
heat
there for,
stroke, right?
yeah, and I had heat stroke. I came in at 103 degrees. And then I ended up staying in the hospital for 2.5 days after that. They wouldn't let me go just because I was still so dehydrated. So just pumping IVs in me. Had to cancel my flight home for the holidays and just reschedule it. So yeah, it was a pretty monumental first marathon, that's for sure. But like I said, I mean, I'm not upset that I didn't finish. I'm proud of myself just because I did push it to the last possible point that I could take myself. Um, and yeah, like just how much we've grown in the last 16 weeks physically and mentally is a huge feat in itself. So I'm super proud of us. Proud of Tristan for actually finishing the damn thing. Um, and yeah, I'm just excited for 2025 and what's coming next.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just close with this. I feel confusion and sadness with what happened to Patrick because we ran 22 and it was no big deal. Like I will say, like from me having done one before and then finishing this one, it's like Patrick was ready to finish one. Like this was a freak thing. This has nothing to do with our training. So it's uh like those are my statements there. But like the positive is we never viewed this as the one thing we were doing. It's always okay, this is just a period of our lives where we're training for this. But now it's like that period's over and it's on to the next thing. And Patrick's already said he will run one this year or in the future. And it's like, it's just that having that mentality of like, okay, we had a slight hiccup here, but that's not the end of the game. Like, this is the infinite game. This is the infinite journey. So there's positivities in what has happened. But, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's definitely it is a pretty monumental thing to have another one done. And for both of us, it's like, what's next? So
Yeah.
that's the next pursuit. But um, definitely has been super cool to like document this week by week and just like, I mean, every video seems to be 15, 20 minutes. So it's like you do that 16 times. Like there's a lot of content of like us sitting here chatting about like our journey. So I
Hmm.
think it's cool that we'll have that to look back on and like revisit. And I expect we'll just do the same with whatever we do next. So
Yeah. You pretty much summed it up perfectly for me. Grateful for all this. Like you said, it's the never-ending pursuit. We'll both be back, I'm sure, with potentially another video series like this, discussing what we're going to be doing next. But yeah, just happy it's over and
yeah,
grateful we went through it for sure.
but yeah, sounds good. So week 16 officially done. The pursuit of the Dallas Hyrox duos and the Dallas Marathon is complete. Let's
Hmm.
go.